Oh, the habits of my heart, I can't say no. It's ripping me apart.
The late Middle Ages and the Renaissance. In the Middle Ages, town life blossomed again with the development of the commune culture. This supported inception of fairly productive course upon which a whole new social class was to found its roots, the bourgeoisie. Craftsmen were hit by higher demands, dictated by the higher number of people living in urban areas, as well as by a steep increase in commerce both within and without the borders of Italy as we know it today. The Crusades had opened up Europe to the idea of communicating with one's neighbor, and products began to circulate with much ease. A new social class, that of merchants, was born. It is then among these crafts and commerce craft that the pleasure of good food became, once again, a symbol of social and economic status. Cooking returned to be a matter of enjoyment and refinement, a voyage among flavors and combinations. Meats and vegetables were once again roasted and braised. The old art of stewing and dressing dishes in rich, flavorsome sauce was rediscovered. The lords of the castles were going that extra mile to make things even more flamboyant, and embarrassed with flair the old imperial habit to present food and dishes on the table spectacularly. Birds were served decorated with their own feathers as if they were still living. Pork was brought onto the table with its head still attached to the body, surrounded by pounds and pounds of sides. Such a rediscovery of old traditional ideas in the kitchen coincided with the introduction of new culinary elements, especially on the Lord's table: spices and cane sugar, introduced to the Italy by Arabs and grown in Sicily. Substitute salt, pepper, or honey in many a dish and helped to create new flavors and recipes. It is, for instance, during the 13th century that sugared almonds were created and usually served as a sign of culinary distinction and the end of very important dinners. Of course, we are talking about modern confetti, covered with a delicious sugar shell here, but the idea of having almonds of even any seeds covered in a sweet shell was common already in Roman times. However, the Romans didn't know sugar, so they would use a paste of honey and flour instead. In general, almonds preparation became very popular, especially thanks to Sicilian cuisine and its love for Arabic flavors. It was in Sicily, for instance, that the Arabs introduced an ancestor of marzipan, which was to become a very popular medieval dessert. What many don't know is that very probably the most famous of all Sicilian desserts, the cassata, may have Arabic origins too. The cake made with sheep ricotta mixed with sugar, sponge cake, royal paste, a sweet paste made from almond flour and sugar, and candied fruit, was created during the Arab domination of Ireland between the 9th and 11th century. Arabs had introduced sugar cane, lemons, and oranges to the cultures of Sicily, and very soon they all became part of its cuisine. All these ingredients concurred along with sheep ricotta, always produced in the south of Italy, and almonds to create the cassata. Even its name may come from the Arabic word quasata, which means small basket, and could indicate the container where the cake was made. However, other linguists think The name actually comes from the Latin caseum, which means cheese. Either way, the roots of the dishes itself are certainly Middle Eastern, even though it changed greatly throughout the centuries. For instance, the pasta di mandorle, the pasta made with almond flour and sugar, which is an ingredient of marzipan, began to be used only during the Norman period to cover cassate. Before then, they were encased in shortbread. Some place of origin to another delicious Italian sweet treat in the same period, and at the hand of the same people, the Arabs. It seems in the fact that the history of gelato, the world famous Italian style ice cream, is very much rooted on Sicilian soil and in Arabic culinary tradition. The Arabs commonly produced a sorbet like concoction of sugar and fruit juices turned into ice by keeping it immersed in a mixture of ice and salt. They exported the method in Sicily, where fruits were plenty, marine salt to local produce, and ice came easily from the peaks of Mount Etna. Even though gelato, as we know, became a feature of European tables only in the 1600s. Thanks to the popularity it reached in France, Arabic Sicily wins the medal for having been the first place in the Western world where its ancestor was produced. The history of Italian cuisine and food is still long and fascinating. Get to learn more about what Italians inherit from the New World and the evolution of Italian way of cooking up to the modern times